Greetings, everybody. This is we're just about winter in Mississippi. I'm making a video to talk about fertilization, and before that I want to show you this this fig tree. Now, you would not guess this, but this fig tree was planted at the beginning of the season, and it's about 6 foot tall, and it was just one branch at the bottom that basically, it was a small plant, a small tree that I put in here, and it practically died, but at the base one bud was left, and that bud produced this. Now this here, I've got about at least a foot or more than that. I had like 2 feet of wood chips, and I dug around here a little bit when I was putting strawberries. Okay, I put my strawberries, I transplanted them here. Now they're gonna thrive in this. Whew. And so when I was digging, what I saw is that the roots of this here are everywhere inside of the wood chips, at the bottom part of the wood chips. And look at this. I mean, all the other ones are relatively small. Like, I mean, they're like one year old, maybe 2-3 feet high. But like the power of wood chips, whoo! All right, but yeah, I'm making this video because I've been hearing a lot and reading a lot of comments on the internet about fertilization and how you need to fertilize in order to have significant crops. And you even have the experts telling you that, the university experts or the farmer experts like the Salatins and all those gurus, saying that you need either, and then they make this this false dichotomy of either you need animal manure or climate change ridden chemicals from oil industry. And then there's a big fight about who's right, who's wrong. But the fact of the matter is, most of this information that comes from these people, they are just doing one thing, and they've been always doing that one thing, and they've never actually tried to not put fertilizer, because of course it's not going to work, so they don't try it, and then they're experts at what they're doing. But folks, you could grow crops without fertilizer, without chemical fertilizers, or without animal fertilizers, and not only at a small scale but at a large scale. Now, I cannot testify at a very, very large scale because I'm doing small, but what I'm doing here can be scaled up and has been scaled up by people in France and people in the third world countries that were basically applying Dr. Gilles Lemieux's research findings regarding soil aggradation. Yeah, this year what we're looking at is the fall garden as we head into winter. And sorry, I'm just like, yeah, but I never, when this quote season is over for a certain plant, I never really rip them out of the ground or anything like that. I usually just cut at the base and leave the roots inside. But look at this here. This grew all over again, and we're heading into winter. And I learned this little here, this is collard greens, okay? This little plant has taught me a lot of things. You see, there's a little, you can't see this probably, but I mean, there's a little stub here on the bottom. That's where I cut this plant 2 seasons ago. I mean, almost 2 years ago. And it didn't die, and it produced a shoot from the side here, and then it produced collard greens. And then I cut that down, and then it did it again this year. So this collard green is acting as a perennial. It doesn't matter if it freezes or anything like that. It just sprouts back from that shoot, from that little bud there, the stump there. And you would not, like, you can't read about this stuff because people buy seeds every year and they start their collard greens all over again every year. But that's because when the plant is exhausted, they take the plant, whatever is left, and they pull it out, right? They tear it out of the ground, and then they do whatever to their soil, and then they start again. But because I wanted to try something different and not ever tear anything out, even like the supposedly quote weeds, I don't pull them out. I just cut them, and it doesn't matter if they sprout back. The roots that they produce in the ground, when I cut them, the roots decompose and are being eaten, and then they provide organic matter inside the bed. So I look forward to having like this, like for example this here, and I don't remember its name. I researched it a while back. If I pulled it out, of course it wouldn't come back, but if I cut it, it comes back. But the thing is, it's providing a lot of roots here and organic matter. And actually this here, this quote weed, is actually in China is used for cancer, you know, and this is like, they study this in universities and research institutes, and they package this as a tea, and they're doing all sorts of other pharmaceutical products with it, but as a tea they sell it. And here we don't talk about this, but in China they I mean, it's like very well known that it helps, you know, curb cancer, the symptoms of cancer. But anyways, here it's just a vulgar weed, you know, and this is what most weeds are like, you know, chickweed, right? This is food, we leave it here. This is a turnip. Look at this big, nice purple top turnip green. I don't know if you could see it. So anyways, back to the fertilizer. Oh wait, same thing with this eggplant. You know, it was pretty much dead after the summer, at the end of the summer, and now it's back again. It has this, all of these jalapenos here, they volunteered from jalapenos that fell on the, see like this here. I let the plants reproduce by themselves as much as I can. It's part of the precepts of sacred agriculture. I'm not going to get into that right now, but so yeah, the thing is with soil aggradation differs from fertilization in that when you fertilize, what you're doing is you're amending the soil with organic or chemical input. And like when you bring compost into your garden, composted manure liquid manure, or chemicals. You're adding, okay? That's an amendment. This here is going to be the, quote, food for your plants for the growing season. These are heirloom turnips. They're dark brown. They're absolutely delicious. And every year you have to start again. You have to amend again. And every year you need to amend. That's your basic fertilization. Soil aggradation is actually the process of building soil, not amending soil. Again, the so-called experts will tell you that it takes thousands of years to produce a few inches of soil. You read this stuff on the World Health Organization, the expert professors in their departments of bullshit, of university of bullshit. No, I shouldn't say that, because there are some that are waking up to the fact that most of the information in universities has been fed by the propaganda and the lobby of the big ag fertilizer corporations. They're just repeating the research that is convenient for a faulty paradigm. So then, look at this one. Isn't it? It is getting really big. Yummy, yum, yum. You could ferment these. You cut them into like little cubes, or like French fries, and you put them in brine, salt water, and you let them on your counter for like 2-3 weeks, and they pickle, like they wild ferment, and they're so delicious. It's unbelievable. So yeah, you don't have to wait hundreds and thousands of years to get soil. The soil process is called soil aggradation, and the quickest way is to look at what happens in the forest. You see, most of the soils we grow our food on came from the forest ecosystem, where people had cleared the forest, and then they grow food, and then after a while they have to amend with a fertilizer, or it's riverbanks, dried up riverbanks where there's a lot of fertile soil, but after a while it's not fertile anymore. You're not producing soil. But the forest produces soil by breaking down the small branches. Okay, let's go look at some small branches here. Okay, like these here branches. Some trees, they lose a lot of their branches and the leaves and everything. And inside of these branches, okay, is a different type of lignin than in the big tree trunk. And it has different enzymes, different plant juices. It's much more, quote, alive, one might say. And it's all these branches that fall on the ground that basically are being eaten by fungi. And it's when the fungi break down these the lignin, the cellulose, hemicellulose, whatever, like, it doesn't matter what the scientific name of is. When the fungi break down the the wood of the small branches, that soil is created really quickly. Okay, that is soil aggradation. So all these wood chips, what they are is basically chipped small branches, and what it does is it just the surface, it creates a much greater surface for the fungi to start to break down the wood and create soil. Now this here, I'm not going to get in all the details. You could look at Dr. Gilles Lemieux, ramial chipped wood, and you'll see there's a lot of studies that have been done on large-scale farming where they put in maybe 2 inches thick of these of this ramial wood. Ramial just means small branch, okay, and then they till that in, and then for the next 5 years the fungi start breaking down and making soil. It builds soil. You don't need any fertilizer, manure, you don't need chemicals, nothing, and you could grow any crop. Look at these heirloom turnips. Yum yum, a lot of turnip greens. Wow. Here's the here are the strawberries that I'm transplanting down there. See, they're happy here, but they just can't grow on, these are like raised beds, they can't grow sideways, right? So, and they'll be happier down there. See, what I did is, when the mother, this was one plant at the beginning of the season, let me just back up, and it kept producing, like, I think they call them stolons, and then I would basically guide them into pots. Now you could cut the link, and you got yourself the one you could transplant. See, look, this is one here that's trying to grow outward. You just put a pot and put this in the soil and it'll grow roots. Yeah, okay. Before I continue, look at this wonderful plant here. This is like bok choy. I tried just for fun. I'm gonna let it go to seed because I only have 2 or 3 of these around, and they're heirlooms, so hopefully it'll make it to seed. Winter's coming, the frost, the freeze is coming. They might not make it. Okay, back to soil aggradation. So there is no absolute like mandatory need to put in animal manure, animal products to grow food. On a large scale, from what the research has shown, to small scale, obviously, that I've been proving myself. But you do need soil aggradation, or else there are much of what we call food will not grow and produce what, quote, we call food. And so why do I insist on this here? What we call food is basically hybridized or genetically selected, highly unnatural plant species. 99% of what we call food is fake. Like cucumbers, like what we call cucumbers are not really, don't really resemble the origin, like the wild cucumber. Like just the same with carrots, the wild carrots, they don't resemble what we call carrots. And there's, how do they call that? Artificial selection, okay, versus natural selection. See, what nature does, creation creates naturally a whole wide, like, diversity of plants. what we have as food has all comes from an ancestor from nature, but has been worked on. Now, people get all worked up about Monsanto when they work directly inside the genetics, but you could work externally by crossing, by they used to do all sorts of stuff back then. They used to put seeds and plants and put them under UV lights and see what kind of defects would be created. They'd take those defects, cross them with something else, then you end up with a plant that grows super big, whatever, big fruits, big leaves, big roots, but they're like frankenfoods that need this artificial fertilizer. Okay, if we were to go back to food, to like wild edibles, they would grow perfectly fine with nothing but what creation offers. Just wherever it grows, that would be perfectly fine. No water, no nothing. But we want these tomatoes, we want these eggplants, we want these huge tomatoes that have nothing to do with anything natural. And yet, when we put this cow manure, fertilized cow manure, we call it organic, natural. There's nothing natural in it. Let's be honest. Okay, being honest seems to be a very difficult thing for most growers out there. It's like there's a spiritual narcissism going on where people want others to think how good they are, how amazingly spiritual they are, but they have no clue. Their food is artificial, their fertilizer is artificial, and they all call this healing the planet. Or like you see so many people say we are healing the planet because we are doing organic, sustainable. And when you dig into their practices, there's absolutely nothing sustainable about it. And I don't want to pick on people, specific people, but like pretty much most people doing organic or biodynamic agriculture is not sustainable. And they'll repeat that it is, but you can't have enough cow manure. And the cows, whatever manure is produced from them, certainly, like in most instances, or the chicken manure isn't very organic. Most cows have to be vaccinated in the United States, and whatever food they have, whatever they're doing, whatever compost or they're using, whatever they are, there's somewhere in the link. Imports are coming in the farm from outside, and anyways, I could make a video on why there's so much lying out there, so much hypocrisy. Here's like where I grew the okra, and you see here, this is the soil that I've got right now. This here was sand pretty much when I started this process. And now it's slowly getting darker and darker. And this is just the fungi that are decomposing the wood chips. Okay? It's not fertilizer. Well, one could say, maybe, we could play with words here for a long time. But it's basically building soil. And so this here, you don't have, like for the next 5 years, I don't need to do anything. Maybe even more than that, because I'm not in a hurry. My okra doesn't grow really big, doesn't get very tall, but it produces enough okra for us. And when everybody else's okra is ready, mine is not nearly close to being ready, but it gets there. Maybe it gets there 3 weeks late. I don't care. I still have lots of okra. So what else did I want to talk about here? I want to say something here really quickly about this notion of how traits are passed on, genetic traits are passed on from mother to the offsprings in the plant and kingdom. We are told that it's a very complex process, and that you can't really, in one generation or two generations, think that you could have significant impact by just growing plants in different environments, and that some traits will express themselves, selective traits, but that it takes a whole slew of processes, and that's why they do the genetic modifications. They shoot genes inside of the cells. Anyways, there's this guy in France that he grows tomatoes in a region that is very arid, and the soil is very sandy and rocky. And he got some heirloom seeds and he put them out there, and basically they didn't produce much because these seeds, the genetics, came from seed farms where they took it from plants that were pampered. You see, the people grow tomatoes with a lot of fertilizers because they say it's a heavy feeder. So the seeds that are produced come from a parent that has been pampered. Okay, there's lots of water, lots of nitrogen, lots of everything, super big plants with then they produce seeds. These seeds go to the public, who then have to do the same thing in order for the phenotypes of the genes to express themselves, so they have big tomatoes and big plants. Now this guy put his seeds out there and he did nothing. He watered them, or he started them in pots, then he transplanted them in the field, and he watered them once, and then almost all of the plants died because they weren't pampered like their mother was pampered. But the ones that survived made small little tomatoes, and he kept those seeds, and then he did it again. And then by the third time round, pretty much all of his plants were surviving and were producing tomatoes. Now he's 10 years into this process, and he's got amazing tomatoes growing everywhere, and he never waters, only at the beginning, to be like when you plant your seedlings. And if because you have to get the soil to adhere to the small little roots, or else they're going to dry out and you're finished. I think he watered once if it gets really, really, really dry, because it doesn't rain that much. Sometimes it doesn't rain at all for 5 months. And so he has to put a bit of water because there's some small little spiders that suck the plant sap, from the leaves, and then the plant is losing whatever water it's holding on to. He has to supplement. But this is just to say, if you stop buying seeds and you produce your own seeds and you don't pamper your plants, okay, then you will get some genetics going that will be able to grow in whatever conditions you are at. And this is not something that, this is not something science will agree with, but this is something that actually works. So there's something to be said about pampering your plants with fertilizer and water that is actually not serving your best interest in the long run, okay? Unless you really want to be buying seeds every year and you want to be buying fertilizer and you want to be spending all this money watering, then go ahead. But if your goal is to come closer and go back into the arms of creation, you want to let creation do what it does to the offsprings, and do what it does to the seeds, and do what it does to your, quote, artificial genetics. Eventually, one of the things I'm going towards in sacred agriculture is getting seeds of wild edibles and then starting back the process to create something that I will be able to garden and that is really close to the natural genetics that creation decided upon. So, like for example, this here is mustard greens. I've got two kinds of mustard greens here. They're both heirloom, but heirloom, don't be tricked. Heirloom is still artificial genetics, okay? Unless you're dealing with like Jerusalem artichokes or something like that. It's like this mustard green, the kale, the collard greens, the Swiss chard, all of them are genetically enhanced species that all come from one ancestor, which is the wild mustard green. The wild mustard green grows everywhere around here. I collected thousands of seeds and I put them in a spot in here in the garden, and then I will be getting those seeds, and then I will be eating pretty much only those mustard greens, and I might try crossing them with the heirlooms to see if they could like change the taste a little bit, but maybe not, you know. The goal is to go back into the arms of creation. So there you have it. That was a little special here on what you can do by saving your seeds, okay? Don't be fooled what people say. Just do it yourself, and then let all the scientists be amazed, okay? Because this is what's happening in France. All the professors from the universities are going to see this guy, and they're like, what? That's not possible. The environment can't have that much of an influence on the traits of the seeds and the offsprings, but they're like, huh, these plants don't need water. These tomatoes don't need nitrogen. How is that possible? Okay, so there you go. You can amaze the scientists around you, only the ones that are open enough. Okay, that's my back to the fertilizer. Yeah, well, one of the things that I have noticed is that when you have a lot of wood chips, maybe like 4 inches, you know, something like that, you've got to mulch and whatever's going on inside. And right now, this camera doesn't pick it up, but it is full of life inside of this. I mean, a lot of beetles. There's a lot of spiders, ants. There's a lot of like fungi, microorganisms. I can't see the microorganisms. I could see the fungi because it's like white filaments. But there's so much life inside of this that I joke around sometimes and I say, I don't put cow fertilizer. I don't need cow dung. I got beetle dung. You see, because all of these small little insects in here, they're pooing, you know, and they die, and their bodies are being eaten up by something else that also poos and also dies, and the carcasses go in here, and then the bacteria and the fungi, all of that is just doing whatever it does, and it just gets richer and richer and richer. And so there is some insect manure. So yeah, I mean, it's just that the things happen by themselves when you let them. If you want to kill all the insects, you won't have this going on. Then you're like, oh well, I need to bring in cow manure. And then where do you get your cow manure? You have cows? Okay. You don't have cows? Well, you're bringing it from the outside, and who knows what's in that manure? You know, and cows, they're not treated properly, most of them. I mean, and most cows are not really real cows. They're also been genetically enhanced. Okay, they're not part of natural selection. There are some cows that are closer to the natural ox in India, but I mean, that's not what people are putting in their gardens. So anyways, there you have it, 27 minutes, a little discourse here on fertilizer and why you don't need it, okay? Break free from things that you've been told. You don't need to be repeating what other people are repeating, who are basically learned it from someone who's just repeating something from a quote expert who basically is just doing what they were told. Okay, it's like direct experience, and let everything go and just try stuff, and then you will be amazed and surprised how much you could get away with, and how your reality shifts and how your consciousness expands along with everything else that is going on in the garden. Okay, so all right, I keep saying this, but in next video I'm going to make a full presentation of what is sacred agriculture, or at least the way I practice sacred agriculture. And yeah, so no fertilizer, no chemicals, no animal input, no pesticides, no herbicides, and very little water is needed. And yeah, there you go. Take care, everybody.